Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wiggin, and so glad that you have joined us. If you're joining us on the live stream, we'll do a couple of shout outs here momentarily. If you're catching us on the after live, you're catching us on YouTube, thank you for finding us. If you do enjoy the content that you see on this weekly basis, please do us a favor at Athearn, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this drops into the channel. And go ahead and comment. We try to answer as many comments as possible, and we do enjoy interacting with you guys. So, who is joining us on the live feed tonight? I see Mr. Brian Wilkinson is here. Michael is here. Late Night Model Railroad has joined us. Mr. Stephen Wagner. And let's see, Donnie, DG Model Works is in the house. David is here. Anthony, David, Model Railroader. Are You a Slacker is here. And Ronald is here, along with Robin, just to name a few. So glad you could join us on the live feed. We're going to be talking about Athearn HO scale. Sorry, N-scale guys, I don't have anything for you this week. However, next week I do have something all new for you, so you'll want to be around for that. But we're going to be talking Athearn HO scale tonight. We're going to be talking about cabooses. We're going to be talking about boxcars, and we're going to be talking trailers, 45-foot trailers. So we've got a little bit of something for everyone. We're going to have a couple of different errors that we're going to talk about and some things that you may want to add to your HO layout. So with that being said, let's do one more round of shout outs and let's dive deep into tonight's Athearn Train Tuesday. I see Jason is here, Anthony, Robin, Biker Brian, Ronald, Randall, Michael Nemechek, Zap is here, Austin is here, along with Kyle Stevens. Thank you once again for joining me on this Tuesday. Let's get started. We'll kind of go opposite of what we normally do. We're going to start with the caboose first. So what we've got here is a representation of probably the last time we would see wooden cabooses in the United States and parts of Canada. Now these are the last bastion of the wooden cabooses before mass-produced metal cabooses, steel cabooses would take over sometime in the mid to late 50s by such companies as International Car. However, a lot of these wooden cabooses, despite being built just before or just after World War II, would go on to see service sometimes as late as the 1970s. Imagine a caboose of this nature being painted Cascade green with a Burlington Northern logo. It did happen. But today we're going to be talking about cabooses that are going to fit anywhere between the 1920s into the 1930s, and we do have one that will fit into the 1960s. Now, the caboose that you see on your screen here is the former roundhouse model. Now, these, if you noticed, are being advertised as Athearn models. Well, that's because the older tooling has been updated, it's been revised, it's got much better fidelity, and there are details that we hadn't offered on the previous roundhouse version. Now, these, of course, are based on the Santa Fe three-window caboose. So keep in mind that a lot of the cabooses in this Athearn run are stand-ins, and those are for the folks that are just looking for a caboose for their layout. Now, I caution you guys, if you want something that is 100% prototype accurate, that is our Genesis line. Athearn will do actual prototype as well as some stand-ins, as you'll see here tonight. Now, the caboose that you see on your screen, like I said, that is a former roundhouse model. It is recently just sold out. In fact, when I originally put this together, it was still in stock at our distribution center in Champaign, Illinois. However, they are completely sold out. That doesn't mean, though, you can't still get it. You can contact your Athearn dealer, and they probably have one of these in stock. And if you're so inclined to add this one to your collection, the item number for this particular caboose is RND 11716. Again, it's RND 11716. Now let's talk about the lines and cabooses that we're going to offer for the month of January. Now, I do want to mention too that everything that we're going to show you tonight as far as cabooses, there's two road numbers each per road name. I'm not going to go ahead and list those road numbers, but you can see those road numbers on our website at athearn.com, and then selecting the new announcements tab and then the PDF for this particular item. So let's get started with what we're offering in January. We're going to start with Union Pacific. Folks that are modeling 1925 into the 1930s would probably want to add the Union Pacific to your roster. Folks that are modeling Chicago Northwestern just a few years later, 1930s era, we're going to also offer the Chicago and Northwestern. Again, these are based on paint schemes from 1925, 1930. And in some cases, these are stand-ins, but they're very close to the original. Now, remember, I said I had one here for you for the 1960s. Well, at the top of your screen, you'll notice that we have Grand Trunk Western. Believe it or not, some of these wooden cabooses still saw service in the 60s and even the 70s. Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy was certainly one of them. So the steel cabooses didn't take over overnight, and some of the railroads were still using these into the 60s and even into the 70s. Grand Trunk Western being one of those examples. Going back to the 1920s, we've got Rock Island. So if you're a Rock Island fan and you're modeling steam, this will be one of the cabooses that you're going to want to add to your collection. At the top of your screen, you can see that we've got the nickel plate road. Now the nickel plate one here is a 1930s paint scheme, 1930s era caboose. And then we're also going to offer Milwaukee Road. This is a 1923 era car. Now the nice thing about this is we get a lot of social media flack for doing Western roads. Well, you'll notice in this one, we've done a lot more in the Midwest than we've done in the past. So we've got some Chicago Northwestern, we've got some Grand Trunk, we've got some Rock Island, and we've got some nickel plate and Milwaukee Road, just to name a few. So we've got a little bit of variety there. We've got one Union Pacific for you Western fans. And again, if you're a steam era modeler and you've been waiting for a caboose, even if it's not the exact prototype caboose that you want, this is a great stand-in for your collection. Now let's talk about the features of these particular cabooses. We're going to go back to the roundhouse example. Keep in mind that this has been updated and is now an Athearn model. So some of the details that I'm reading off, you're not going to see on this finished model. You're going to see it later when it comes in. These are, of course, going to be simulated wood sheathing. They're going to have wire truss rods. Now that is as appropriate, but for this run, all of these have those wire truss rods. Clear window glazing is now added. Painted steps as appropriate based on the paint scheme. Appropriate to each prototype, including either detailed arch bar or Bettendorf trucks, depending on the prototype once again, and they will have brake shoe detail. Now the minimum radius on these cabooses is 18 inches, so that means even the smallest model railroad can add these without any worry about functionality. So there you go. You've got those available to you until January 24th for pre-order. Let's move on to boxcars. And another one, and we're going to go a little bit newer now. Now we're going to talk about in the 50s and 60s. Now, of course, 40-foot boxcars, pretty much standard from World War II on. However, 1950s, 1960s, we started to see the 50-foot, and it wasn't too much longer after that we started seeing the 60-foot. Now, that being said, the 40-foot didn't go away overnight. Now, many of these 40-foot boxcars saw new life in the late 1960s and into the 1970s when they were modernized. Now, what that means is the roof locks were removed, the brake wheel was moved down, and the end ladders were cut down. And depending on what the boxcar was used for, different doors were added. Some 8-foot doors, 10-foot doors, it just depended on the prototype. Now, these cabooses that we're announcing this month, these are pretty much factory standard as delivered, but they've got some really cool paint schemes. Most people think of 40-foot boxcars in the oxide reds and the oxide browns, but by the 1950s into the 1960s, a lot of railroad companies were adding really bright, colorful paint schemes to their boxcars, and that's what we're going to be representing here tonight. Now, the boxcar that you see on your screen is from a previous release. This is Boston and Maine 76127. If you are interested in this boxcar, it's been about a year or so since this was released. But you may still find this at your hobby shop or your favorite online retailer. The item number for this boxcar is ATH7615. Again, that's ATH7615. Now, for everything that we're going to be showing in this run of boxcars, each road name has 3 different road numbers. Again, I'm not going to read through all those road numbers. You can see that for yourself at athearn.com at the new announcements tab. Just keep in mind, every road that you're going to see next has 3 road numbers. So starting at the top of your screen, we've got Union Pacific again. This is based on the 1948 paint scheme. You'll notice when you look at this car, you see a slogan up there, serves all the West. Now, we had a lot of questions on social media because correct, the prototype should say serves all the West on one side, and on the other side, it should say route of the streamliners. Well, I can guarantee you that that is how we are sending the artwork to our factory. It indeed does say route of the streamliners on the opposite side. 1960s era is coming up next. Here's the Erie Lackawanna with this really eye-catching paint scheme. Again, this is when railroads were kind of using their 40-footers and other freight cars as traveling billboards or advertisements. And so this is a pretty neat era. So if you're a steam transition era guy, you're probably going to want to pick up a few of these box cars. But coming up next, these are basically based on our product suggestions, and it's been a while since we've offered some of these. So up top, we've got the Elgin, Joliet, and Eastern. Now, this is a 1957 paint scheme, really eye-catching. Again, you're going to have 3 different road numbers with this particular box car. And another one that we got a lot of folks asking for more of is Texas and Pacific. You can see that at the bottom of your screen. This is a 1940s era boxcar. Certainly can run this into the 50s, into the 60s, both of these with some weathering. Great cars, great eye-catching cars. And again, remember, these are as they appeared. They're not modernized. They still have their roof walks, their original location for their brake wheels, and these have the superior doors. The last 2 rounding out this collection, definitely colorful cars. We're going to start with the Akron, Canton, and Youngstown. This is our Youngstown, 1966 era for this car. Again, you can kind of tell we're getting into that mid-century modern look with these logos and color schemes. You're also going to have the option of 1958 era Minneapolis and St. Louis Railway. That's right, we're going to offer the Mini again. The Mini is available in its 1958 paint scheme. You're not going to miss either one of these cars on your layout. They stand out. There's really bright, bright paint schemes. So let's talk about the model features. We're going to go back to our Boston and Maine. We're going to use that as an example. You can see that the Boston and Maine car pictured here still has its roof walks, and it's pretty much as it was. That's what these cars are going to be like. They're just going to be different road names, and you're going to have 3 road numbers to choose from. So these will have the single superior style door. These are also going to have the separately applied roof walk and the original brake wheel placement. These will have Bettendorf trucks with 33-inch machine metal wheels and an RP25 contour. What's that mean? That basically means these will operate on any mass manufactured HO scale track or rail. And the minimum radius on these is 18 inches. So if you're a modeler that's really cramped for space and you've wanted a switching layout or even a 4x8 layout, and you're thinking, I just can't get a lot in there. That may be true with modern stuff because a lot of modern stuff now is 6-axle with 60-foot boxcars. Consider going back to the 50s and 60s when 40-footers and smaller steam locomotives and smaller Jeeps were an option. You might want to go and consider that. Also, too, it's a lot easier to justify in a switching layout dropping 1 or 2 boxcars at an industry when the trucks hadn't quite taken over yet in the 50s and 60s. So there you are with those boxcars. You're going to want to order those before Friday the 24th. Next, we're going to go ahead and talk trailers. So we're going to jump up a little bit. We're going to go to the late 70s, early 1980s now. And this is a era of modelers that usually get forgotten about. Usually late 70s, 80s, and 90s modelers, they tend to get forgotten on. We're trying to change that a little bit. These are the Athearn HO scale 40-foot Fruehauf Z-Van smooth side trailers. Now these are the smooth side. So let's take a little history trip briefly. The Z-Van, which was originally available in a 40-foot length, 45-foot was later offered. Now, we've talked about why in the past. Now, many of the 40-foot trailers were subsequently extended to 45 feet. Refrigeration equipment was also available for these trailers, as well as different landing gear and door rod configurations. So there's all kinds of 45-foot trailers in different styles. Not only that, but when construction began, they began with the rib side versions. Then they slowly proceeded to a beaded side construction, and then finally the smooth side version, which we're representing in this run here. That means they're the most modern. So you're really looking at 1980s era trailers. Now, these were really common in the early to mid 1980s until later in the 90s when the 48 footers and the 53 foot trailers were hitting overnight necessarily, but they were very common within the 1980s. And one thing I do want to stress before we move on is some of the roads that we have chosen for this run, they are stand-ins. And I'll let you know which ones are pretty much stand-ins. Some of the ones that we chose were technically from 48-foot trailers. However, 3 feet in HO scale. And if you got that thing in the background, most people that are not modelers are going to be able to tell the difference. We wanted to offer these as stand-ins for you because sometimes it's just what you're looking for and the road you're looking for, and you can add it. And most people, other than yourself, really wouldn't know. So let's talk about these. Now, the one that you see on your screen currently, this is actually currently available at your Athearn dealer. This model, ATH 16143, is from the most recent release. And again, these are available. So if you like this particular trailer, you can go ahead and order that through your preferred Athearn dealer. So starting at the top, we've got a late 1990s era Burlington Northern Santa Fe. You can tell it's late 1990s because of the Burlington Northern logo. This is long before the wedge scheme came into popularity after 2005. Now, I do want to say this is one of those stand-ins. This particular paint scheme really technically was not on a 45 footer, it was on a 48 footer. But again, this is a great stand-in for your module, for your layout. Next, we've got one that is based on prototype, 1980s era Union Pacific. These were quite popular in a run that we did a number of years ago. It was time to bring these back. We've also got another stand-in. This is 1990s era Kansas City Southern. This one is one that we get a lot of requests for, so we wanted to offer it as a stand-in for you guys. Now going up to the top, we've got the 1990s era Illinois Central with the, wait for it, can I get away and say what kind of logo this is? Death Star logo. I don't think Disney's going to come after me. Yeah, the rail fans called this the Death Star logo. It was the last logo Illinois Central had before, of course, becoming what they are now. Now, again, this is a stand-in. There weren't any 45-foot trailers that I know of anyways that were painted in this paint scheme. However, this is a great stand-in for your module layout. Going to the 1980s, we've got this great Seaboard system trailer. We're seeing a lot more requests lately in our product suggestion emails for Seaboard system, Seaboard coastline. So we're starting to add some of that in there, and this trailer is certainly one of those additions. And then down at the bottom of your screen, another one that we've done in the past, however, has been very popular. This is a late 1970s era Norfolk and Western. Finally, coming in, we've got 1990s era Minnesota, Dakota, and Western. Again, this is a stand-in. These trailers were painted on 48 footers. However, HO scale, 3 feet, it works great as a stand-in. Also, it's a paint scheme that we, quite frankly, had a lot of requests for. And then finally, we've got a 1980s era Milwaukee Road. This is pretty much dead on from everything that I can tell. This is a great trailer. I remember seeing these. They were at one time pretty common. I don't know when the last time I saw one was, but here you are. You've got your option of the Milwaukee Road as well. Now, one thing that I failed to mention is for every road that I've shown thus far, you have two road numbers to choose from. So you can pick up two Milwaukee roads, two Union Pacifics, and the list go on. Now, for those road numbers, you can go to athearn.com, select the new announcements tab, and you can view the PDF there and see what road numbers we're offering. Going back to our Clipper Express example, which is currently available, by the way, these are going to have separately applied mud flaps. Aren't you glad you don't have to do that? I mean, HO scale, putting those guys on, not what I want to do. I'd rather do some other stuff with my layout. They do have rubber tires. They do have a highly detailed injection molded body. And of course, they are painted and printed for the most realistic as possible, including those stand-ins. So there you have it. There's our trailers for the month of January. Now you've got until Friday, January 24th, which, believe it or not, I think that's next Friday. I don't know where January is going, but you've only got about a week and a few days. Place your pre-orders on that. Remember, we are tightening up our orders, so it's not going to be as much excess as there's been in the past. So if you really want one of these cabooses, one of these box cars, and one of these trailers, you're going to want to get those pre-orders in now, sooner than later. So yes, there we have it. Time for some questions. By the way, I don't know if you guys know this. I know it because it's from my neck of the woods, but it was revealed today, I believe, that Vermont Rail is going to be working on a section in New Hampshire that was former Maine Central Territory. Going to be working on that here real soon. So that's some cool news. Stuff that's not going to turn into a rail trail. It's going to turn into an active rail again. And that's the old mountain division of the Maine Central. CSX, of course, is doing a lot of work in my neck of the woods. So should be pretty interesting to see what's going on up there. Oh, let's see what we've got for questions. Now's your time for questions. I'm going to go back a little bit in case anybody had any questions while I was giving the presentation. Late Night says, trailers are fun to weather. Yeah, they are. Sometimes, when you're, stuck in a parking lot or traffic, you kind of look at them and get some ideas on weathering them. Let's see what else we've got. Any product suggestions, you can send those to our email at athearn-productsuggestions@athearn.com. It's funny, I had a guy come up to me at a show one time and he was so mad at me because he said he kept leaving comments on social media and Train Tuesday, and I had not made his model yet. Well, I'm just a company spokesperson. I don't have any direct control over what we produce and what we don't produce. That's all done mainly through our product suggestion email. So if there's something you really want to see, your best chance is to take it to that email where it does actually get seen by a product developer. And if we get enough requests for those items, when it comes time to make decisions on what roads we want to run for certain projects, we may select the one that has the most entries. So there you have it. If you got any suggestions, feel free to send them to our product suggestion email. Kyle says some good models to do some modeling and make those MOW cars or abandoned cars. Quite a few of these 40-foot and 50-foot box cars lasted into the 70s and 80s. Yes, they did. Tool cars, too. I think it's still there, although unfortunately I think it was burned out a couple of weeks ago. But in Concord, there's an old PS1 50-foot Boston to Maine boxcar that for years, ever since I was a kid, was just used as a toolbox. It was where the railroad, they literally took the sliding metal door, cut it, and put a actual like regular door on it with a lock, and they put their tools in there. So there's another line side detail that you can use for these cars. JD Boyd's got a good question. Do all Athearn and Roundhouse cars have metal wheels now? Yes, they do. They all have metal wheels, including N scale. Our N scale also has metal wheels. Bruce wants to know what products are coming this month. If you signed up for our email newsletter, that will be revealed. And if you're going to the Springfield Train Show, the Amherst Show, the Big E, whatever you call it, it is technically called the Railroad Hobby Show in Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm going to have some surprises there. I was talking to John in product development today. He is bringing some surprises, and Janik was good enough to ship out some stuff. So coming in January, we've got some good stuff coming out. I think the 38-2s with the lit number boards and classification lines, I think they're due to hit here the end of January. So if that's something you've been waiting on, those are going to be here. SD60Es are due to arrive at the same time. N-scale guys, you've got a new model coming in hopefully by the end of January, and that's the 45-foot trailers. We're actually going to talk about those next week. So there's a few things coming in. If you haven't signed up for the Athearn email newsletter, please do so. We are trying to update that and let you know what's coming soon so you guys can kind of budget and plan. Oh, let's see what else we've got here. You know, I'm going to get Steven's comment up here because I get dragged through the mud so many times. Jim can't pronounce this town right. Well, here's one for all you naysayers out there. Sprague's, a famous discount store just east of what is that? What is that town? If you're from the Midwest, it doesn't count. It's Worcester, Massachusetts, and for years used dozens of former piggyback trailers to store stock in. Yet hadn't been brought to the store. That's interesting. 2 Boston and Maine 40-foot cars in West Cambridge. That's interesting. So there you have it. And Stephen, since it sounds like you're from that neck of the woods, yeah, the Boston and Maine, later Guilford, was famous for abandoning cars on branch lines and everything. Worcester. I miss Worcester. If you're from Illinois, this is how you say it. Let's see what else we've got here. Greg, this is actually a good question. This is really something that people ask from time to time, and it's worth answering again. Will Athearn or Genesis boxcars ever have sliding doors like the old blue box models? No, they won't. Some of the roundhouse models, though, they will still have sliding doors. There's some roundhouse boxcars that do. Now, the reason why that is being done, remember that roundhouse is kind of the economic, and it's for a younger modeler. So it's got a little bit of play value there. With the HO Athearn and the Genesis models, the reason why they don't do that is that because currently, just because of the molding of that size of model, for us to do the hardware for the doors to actually slide, they'd be so oversized and ridiculous, they just wouldn't look right. So to keep attention to the actual prototype detail, they are scale sized to the prototype. And right now, anyways, the technology dictates that we don't have, we can't make those open without breaking. So that's why you'll see Athearn and Genesis not have opening doors. Sid wants to know, are the NSC 6400s and NSC 6000s going to be at Amherst? I can tell you this, Sid. I know John has been hard at work on these. There's been a lot of back and forth with our factory on those. I can't guarantee he's going to have anything there, but he might have something there. They're not going to be finished goods. He's still doing a lot of work on those. Let's see what else we've got here. Oh, Terry, I hope you're coming to Springfield. My Milwaukee Road GP38s without dynos and with billboard lettering. Yes, and they are gorgeous. If you go to the website now, I think the pictures might actually be up. We shot those in our photo studio this past week. Monday, I guess. Yeah, we shot on Monday. That's okay. I'm from New Hampshire. We call Massachusetts far worse. You're fine. St. Crow. Try getting people in Wisconsin, Minnesota to properly pronounce it. Reading. Yes, I know. That's a. But you know what? There's towns in out west and down south that I butcher. I know. So I apologize. Jason's got some interesting news for us. Jim, Rock, Tennessee, and Chattanooga. There's a few old SPD trailers, and I know of one Northwestern trailer in Ringgold. See, I probably butchered that. And I have seen some Southern trailers in and around Chattanooga. Yeah, that's the other thing too. These maybe you model the current day. You could still have these trailers. I'm not too far from where there's some old 40 and 35-foot trailers just sitting on the side of a property. Use them for storage or something. So good ideas for scenery. All right. JD says, hey, what about the RX 500? I don't have any news for you now. I can tell you, though, that John is working on it. He's shown me drawings. And he's probably getting to a point where he'll probably want to share some of those drawings on social media. So I'd say stay alert and watch our social media. One of the things, too, that reminds me is Janik is really good about sending me pictures from his Fremo module. If you didn't know it, Janik is one of our product developers, and he is extremely active in Fremo, as well as Club HO layouts. And so the cool thing is remember last week I told you that our product developers not only do they develop new product, but they have to check it. And when they check it, there is a chance that if it passes all of the QC marks, he'll take a picture of it and send it to me for social media. And we posted some really cool pictures of the GP15s that myself and a lot of you are waiting for. Now, one that didn't, Janik and I talked about this later. We wanted to show everybody that the Conrail unit has alternating ditch lights when the horn's depressed. Now, when he took the picture, he was hitting the horn, and of course, it only looks like one light's lit up. So a lot of people were quick to jump on that. We had a ton of trolls, and no, they're just alternating ditch lights. So, but the GP15s look beautiful. I can't say we're going to have any of those at Amherst. I was really hoping we would, but it's not looking like it. Christopher wants to know any new projects being announced at Amherst. I can tell you personally, since I put the booth together and all the product stuff, I don't have any secrets, but I have product development showing up for the show, and there could be secrets. So you're definitely going to want to come to the booth. Major announcements, I don't know of any, but again, you're going to want to see what the guys are working on. Let's see what else we've got. I'll do one or two more questions. I'm going to let you get back to it. Let's see. Rio Grande is always nice. Let's see. I saw one from Charles. Hey, Jim, how come these two roads were not on this run? They are SP and family line system. Well, product developers didn't choose that. Remember, when the product developers are working on a project, they're looking at our Athearn product suggestion email. They're strongly looking at that. Another thing they'll look at too is like those Norfolk and Western trailers. We haven't run those in a while, but they sold really well. That tells us that there's people that really like those trailers. That led us to choosing those. So, like I tell everybody, if we didn't choose your favorite railroads, that's okay. Give us time. We will eventually. Well, let's see. One more question, and we're going to call it a night. One thing I do want to let you guys know, again, we're going to be at the Springfield Train Show, as I call it, or the guys from New England call it the big one. It is 2 days of model railroad Nirvana. It's 4 buildings. If you've never been, you really need to go. It's in Springfield, Massachusetts. It's the end of this month. In fact, I'll be leaving soon after Train Tuesday next week to go set up the booth. I would really enjoy meeting most of you guys there, and it is just amazing. It's one of my favorite train shows, mainly because it's my backyard. but there is, like I said, 4 buildings of model railroad goodness, and you're going to see everything from railroad layouts to manufacturers to folks that have podcasts to people that you've seen on YouTube. And it's also going to be a great way for you to see new products from folks like Athearn. Now, we're going to have about 5 of us at the Athearn booth. This is one of our biggest shows, and we're going to be in the Better Living Center. We're going to be at booth location 32A. We are a proud sponsor of the Railroad Hobby Show, so do stop by and talk to us. We'd love to show you what we're working on. We're going to have stuff that's on display that is currently in stock, stuff that is coming soon, and of course, with product development there, I have no idea what they're bringing, but it's going to be really cool, and we'll hopefully have some dates for you on some of the stuff you're waiting for. Let's see. What else? Oh, yeah, Jason, I share that. I can't wait to see you in Chattanooga in 2026. I can't wait either. That does remind me, he's talking about the NMRA National Show. We're also going to be in Novi, Michigan this coming summer. That's another great show that I'm looking forward to attending. But yeah, Chattanooga next summer. That's going to be great. Chessie wants to know if we go to Timion's. Yeah, that's been a long day. I don't typically go to those. I think many years ago Athearn did, but we stopped going to that show for some reason. Somebody made that decision before I came along. Dave has been bugging me, and I really do want to get to the Southeast where the shows are better. Yeah. Well, let us know some shows that you'd like to see. That does remind me, if you are someone that has something to do with donations for your show, or you're running a show and you're looking for donations, you can ask Athearn for donations for your show. It's real simple. If you go to the Athearn website and scroll to the bottom of the screen, there is a link there for donations, and it basically sends you to a fillable PDF page, and you put in as many details about your show and you send it to us. And I can't promise you that every single request we get we fulfill, but we do quite a few. We do a lot of RPMs, we do a lot of shows, and of course we're happy to help out when we can. So there's something to think about if you're on your donation list and your show's coming up in a couple of months and you're wondering who am I going to contact. You can definitely contact Athearn. We'd be 9 times more than any willing to help out. Oh, Stephen, you definitely need to attend. You need to go to Springfield. It is a great show. JD, boy, that is not true. You asked some great questions. I think I just answered one of your questions. Jim says he looks forward to meeting most of us. I don't know if he looks forward to meeting me, considering some of the questions I ask on here. But I love Athearn. Athearn is the reason I love trains. Now, JD, you don't send any bad questions. And yes, I would like to meet you. I've even like to meet people that are in a bad mood. I had a guy my first year for Athearn at the Springfield show just completely yell at me. Unfortunately, yelling at me like that just made me laugh, which probably didn't help the situation any. But he wanted something that we couldn't produce anymore, and well, you can't please everybody all the time, so we try. We're just modelers like you. So JD, don't now. You can stop by the booth, say hi, introduce yourself. And by the way, while I'm thinking of it too, I have a horrible memory when it comes to names. So please don't ever get offended when you come to the booth and you talk to any one of us and say, "Hey, I'm Tim. You remember me and myself and all the other guys?" Probably don't. And it's not. Don't take it personal. We see a lot of guys. We talk to a lot of guys. You guys are interesting. I'm still thinking about some of the conversations I had at Train Fest a couple of months ago. That was a lot of fun. All right. Well, Chessie is teasing me with some biscuits and gravy, which is one of my downfalls. So yeah, the train shows in the Southeast, we got to get up there. There, Jim, once you catch your breath after Amherst, I hope we start to see more track laid behind you. Well, the track is actually laid behind you. You just can't see it. It's not weathered and it's not done. In fact, I actually did an impromptu operating session on it last night, testing some different things. I'm in the middle of decoder install and keep alive installs and things of that nature, because everything is going to be run through Tsunami 2 and it's also going to be run through the Proto Throttle. Hopefully, though, yeah, you're right. This year I've got about 4 months I can work on the layout before summer draws me outside. So definitely. All right. Well, everyone, I want to thank you all for joining me here on Train Tuesday. I really do hope I see you in Springfield. If not, hopefully I'll see you at one of the other shows. Until next time, everyone, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, do some modeling, and above all, high greens. Good night, everyone.